A black woman invented the modern sanitary pad in 1920. But when a major company discovered her race, they canceled the deal in her face and walked away. Her invention would go on to generate billions of dollars for white-owned corporations, while she died without seeing a single penny. This is the untold story of Mary Kenner, the woman who changed menstruation forever, but was erased from history because of the color of her skin. Welcome to African Tales by JONA-LORE, where we uncover the hidden stories that shaped our world. If you're tired of history that only tells half the truth, you're in the right place. We dig deep into the archives, unearth forgotten voices, and bring you stories backed by official records, not rumors. Every fact you hear today comes from verifiable sources: declassified documents, patent records, academic research, and historical testimony. Before we begin, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. That's because these are the stories they didn't teach you in school, and you won't want to miss a single one. Now, let's step back to early 20th century America, where a young black girl in Monroe, North Carolina, was about to change women's lives forever. Mary Beatrice Davidson was born on May 17, 1912, in Monroe, North Carolina. According to records from the Lemelson MIT program, she came from a remarkable family of inventors. Her father, Sidney Nathaniel Davidson, too, had patented a clothing presser in 1914 that could fit inside a suitcase. Her maternal grandfather, Robert Fromberger, invented a tricolor light signal for trains and a stretcher with wheels for ambulances. Innovations that were documented in patent archives but brought him no fortune. Mary showed her inventive spirit early. Historical records indicate that at just 6 years old, she attempted to create a self-oiling door hinge. By age 12, according to the Chicago-Kent Journal of Intellectual Property, she was walking the corridors of the United States Patent and Trademark Office in Washington, D.C., studying how inventions became patents. She was teaching herself the language of innovation in a country that would later try to silence her. But to understand why Mary's invention mattered so profoundly, we need to talk about something most history books won't: what it was actually like to menstruate in early 20th century America. For thousands of years, women managed their periods with whatever they had. Ancient records show that women used everything from papyrus in Egypt to moss in North America. But by the late 1800s, as documented in the Journal of Family Planning and Reproductive Health Care, women in America were still primarily using homemade cloth rags, literally old pieces of fabric that were stuffed into their undergarments and washed for reuse. The term "on the rag" wasn't slang, it was reality. These rags had to be pinned to tight-fitting underwear, or held in place with elaborate contraptions. According to research by historian Shara Vostral at Purdue University, women also wore what were called sanitary aprons, heavy rubber garments with strips running between the legs to catch overflow. Vostral's research describes them bluntly. They were heavy and stinky. It could not have been comfortable. The stigma around menstruation was suffocating. In 1927, a medical study documented in historical archives described the Kotex sanitary pad, the leading commercial product at the time, as too large, too long, too thick, and too stiff. Women purchased these products in shame, slipping money across pharmacy counters without making eye contact, desperate not to acknowledge publicly that yes, they were menstruating. When the first disposable pads hit the market in 1897, Johnson & Johnson's Lister's towels, according to London's Old Operating Theatre Museum, they failed catastrophically. Not because they didn't work, but because women were too embarrassed to buy them. The very act of purchasing a menstrual product was admitting something society deemed unspeakable. This was the world Mary Kenner inherited. A world where menstruation was treated as a shameful secret, where women's bodily functions were hidden behind closed doors, where the simple act of existing in a female body during that time of month could cost you your job, your reputation, your dignity. And Mary Kenner decided to change it. Sometime in the 1920s, while still a teenager, Mary conceived of something revolutionary. According to patent records and family accounts documented by the Vagina Museum, she designed an adjustable sanitary belt with a built-in, moisture-proof napkin pocket. The innovation was deceptively simple, but profound. A belt that would hold sanitary napkins securely in place with a waterproof barrier to prevent leakage and an adhesive mechanism to keep everything stable. And this was the precursor to every modern maxi pad you see on store shelves today. The design addressed every problem women faced. No more pins that could prick your skin. No more shifting pads that caused embarrassing stains. No more constant anxiety about leakage ruining your clothing. According to the Lemelson MIT program's profile of Kenner, her invention allowed women to change their pads with ease while on the move. Something that seems basic now, but was revolutionary then. Mary had solved a problem that affected half the human population. She had created something that would fundamentally change how women navigated public spaces, how they participated in the workforce, how they lived their daily lives. But there was one massive problem. Mary Kenner was black, and she was poor. Patent applications weren't cheap. According to current legal research documented by the Chicago-Kent Journal of Intellectual Property, and even today, a basic utility patent can cost around $700, and that's before attorney fees. In the 1920s and 30s, for a black woman working multiple jobs just to survive, that cost was impossible. So Mary waited. She refined her design. She improved it over the years, and she saved every penny she could. It would take her 30 years. Finally, in 1954, according to Patent Office records, Mary completed her patent application. On April 14th, 1959, she received United States Patent number 2,881,761 for the sanitary belt with moisture-proof napkin pocket. She had done it. Against every odd, against poverty, against systemic barriers, Mary Kenner had secured a patent for an invention that would change the world. And then came the betrayal that would define the rest of her life. According to Vice's interview with Mary Kenner herself, but published long after these events, she described what happened next. One day, I was contacted by a company that expressed an interest in marketing my idea. I was so jubilant. I saw houses, cars, and everything about to come my way. The company was Sun Nappak. They had seen the patent. They understood the market potential. A company representative drove to Mary's home in Washington, D.C. to meet with their prospective client and discuss the deal that would make her rich. But when the representative arrived and saw that Mary Kenner was black, everything changed. In Mary's own words, documented in that same Vice interview, "Sorry to say, when they found out I was black, their interest dropped. The representative went back to New York and informed me the company was no longer interested." Let that sink in. A major corporation, recognizing the brilliance of an invention, the market potential, the profit they could make, walked away because the inventor was black. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a systematic pattern of exclusion documented extensively in legal scholarship. According to a Stanford Law Review article titled "Centering Black Women Inventors, Passing and the Patent Archive," black women inventors faced what legal scholars call archival silences, deliberate erasure from the historical record through discrimination, theft, and false attribution. The paper documents how black women often had to sell their patents to white men, or allow white men to falsely claim inventorship just to get their inventions to market. One example, Ellen Eglin, a black domestic servant who invented an improved clothes wringer in 1888. According to research published in the Smithsonian Magazine, our Eglin sold her invention to a white agent for just $18, less than $300 in today's money, explaining, "You know I am black, and if it was known that a Negro woman patented the invention, white ladies would not buy the wringer." This was Mary Kenner's reality, and it gets worse, because Mary couldn't afford to maintain her patent fees and couldn't find any company willing to work with a black woman. Her patent eventually expired and entered the public domain. Here, according to historical records compiled by blackpast.org and the History Hit website, this meant that any company could legally manufacture and sell Mary Kenner's design without paying her a single cent. And that's exactly what happened. Throughout the 1960s and 70s, according to menstrual product historians, companies began manufacturing sanitary belts based on Mary's design. The adhesive backing she pioneered became the industry standard. Procter & Gamble, a Johnson & Johnson, Kimberly-Clark, these corporations built billion-dollar empires on products that directly descended from Mary Kenner's innovation. She received nothing. But here's what really captures who Mary Kenner was. She didn't stop inventing. According to patent records, Mary received 5 total patents in her lifetime, the most ever awarded to a black woman by the U.S. government at that time. When her sister Mildred developed multiple sclerosis in 1976, Mary patented a walker attachment with a tray and pocket, so Mildred could carry items while moving independently. She patented a toilet paper holder that kept the loose end always within reach. In 1987, she patented a backwasher that could be mounted on shower walls. Every single invention solved a real problem in people's lives. And every single one was created with no expectation of wealth, no hope of recognition, no promise of reward. Mary Kenner said it herself, so in words documented by Vice, "Every person is born with a creative mind. Everyone has that ability." She worked as a professional florist for most of her life, owning 4 flower shops around the Washington, D.C. area. She fostered 5 children and adopted 1 son. She lived a full life, surrounded by family and beauty. On January 13, 2006, Mary Beatrice Davidson Kenner passed away at the age of 93. According to obituaries and historical records, very few people knew her name. There were no awards, no halls of fame, no corporations acknowledging their debt to her genius. She died in the same obscurity that had haunted her entire life. But the sanitary pads in every store, the menstrual products that allow women to work, travel, participate fully in society, they all trace back to a black woman in Monroe, North Carolina, who refused to accept that suffering was inevitable. Now, you might be thinking, why does this matter? It happened decades ago. Can't we just move on? Here's why it matters. According to a 2016 study published in the Quarterly Journal of Economics and cited in academic research, race and gender are still highly predictive of who becomes an inventor in America. The patent gap hasn't closed. It's widened. A University of Pennsylvania Law Review article documented that as recently as 2016, Black Americans apply for patents at nearly half the rate of white Americans. Not because of lack of innovation, but because of systemic barriers, lack of access to capital, lack of networks, lack of representation, and yes, ongoing discrimination. The stories of Mary Kenner, Ellen Eglin, Sarah Good, and countless other black women inventors aren't ancient history. They're blueprints for understanding why, in 2026, we still see massive racial and gender gaps in who gets credit for innovation, who gets funded, who gets remembered. There's a powerful African proverb that speaks to this. Until the lion learns to write, every story will glorify the hunter. For too long, the hunters have written history. The innovators, the geniuses, the women who literally changed how half of humanity lives. They've been written out because their stories didn't serve the narrative of who deserves to be called an inventor. Mary Kenner learned to write. She put her name on patent documents. She claimed her place in history. But the system still tried to erase her. We won't let that happen. Not anymore. Not while there are people willing to dig through archives, to cite sources, to tell the truth. According to the National Museum of American History at the Smithsonian, understanding these hidden histories isn't about guilt or blame. It's about accuracy. It's about finally telling the complete story of American innovation. Every time you see a maxi pad with an adhesive backing, remember Mary Kenner. And every time you benefit from an invention that makes life easier, ask yourself, who really created this? Whose name was erased? What stories haven't I been told? Because here's the truth that keeps me up at night. Mary Kenner is just one of thousands. For every Mary Kenner we managed to document, how many brilliant black women inventors have been completely lost to history? How many patents were stolen? How many deals were canceled the moment someone walked through the door? We'll never know the full count, but we can make damn sure it doesn't keep happening. So here's what I want you to do. Think about the everyday items you use: your phone, your car, your kitchen gadgets, your medical devices. Research who actually invented them. Dig past the corporate logos and marketing campaigns. Look for the patents. Find the original inventors. You'll be shocked how many times the real innovator was someone written out of the story. And drop a comment below and tell me, what's one invention you learned was created by a black woman or another marginalized inventor? Share what you found. Let's build a knowledge base right here in the comments. Let's create the archive that history tried to burn. And if you found this story valuable, if you learned something that schools never taught you, hit that like button and share this video. Because the algorithm doesn't care about justice or truth. It cares about engagement. Every share and every like, every comment tells YouTube that these hidden stories matter. That people want the full truth. That we're tired of sanitized history. Subscribe to African Tales by JONA-LORE, because we're not stopping here. We have dozens more untold stories. Stories of genius, resistance, innovation, and survival that have been deliberately buried. Stories that will make you question everything you thought you knew about who built this world. And here's my challenge to you. Don't just consume this story. Act on it. Support black women inventors today. Fund their businesses. Buy their products. Amplify their voices. Because Mary Kenner never got her flowers while she was alive. But we can make damn sure the next generation of black women inventors doesn't face the same erasure. The best time to honor Mary Kenner was in 1957, when Son Nappak should have signed that deal. The second best time is right now. I'll see you in the next one, I'll see you in the next one, where we uncover another story they tried to bury. Until then, stay curious, stay critical, and remember, history belongs to those who refuse to let it be erased.